What is the most fucked up thing that happened in Reddit? The woman in legal advice who was being investigated by CPS while pregnant with her first child, which is not something CPS does. Here it was not a real caseworker and just a woman tried to steal her baby. Wait, what? This woman was pregnant and a social worker showed up at her house claiming they had received concerns about her and her partner. I believe her partner had a drug charge, weed, from when he was a teenager, and that was allegedly the concern. Both parents immediately take drug tests and pass and assume that should be it. Instead, the woman tells them she can't guarantee baby won't immediately be taken from them after birth and they'll lose custody. Mom is obviously panicked and very confused. Goes to legal advice sub for help on how to keep her baby and what legal assistance she can receive. Everyone on the sub tells her something is not right and to not let this woman into her home anymore and to contact PS to talk to a different caseworker about their situation. Things become extremely concerning when many PS workers from her state enter the thread and tell her PS can investigate a fetus, only a living child who's been born. OP contacts a lawyer and the authorities and finds out this woman does not work for PS and most likely was planning on showing up to the hospital right after she gave birth and kidnapped the baby under the guise of being CPS. That parasite man who loved being covered in parasites, breeding parasites and worst of all infecting others unknowingly. Worst of all, he referred to them as his children. I hope that shit was fake. I'm sorry, what? Yeah, I remember reading this post. He went in depth about how he loved the idea and sensation of parasites living inside him and feeding off, and he did everything he could to have as many parasites as possible in him. He referred to them as his children, and I specifically remember him saying he would go to good buffets and spread his children in the food, getting off on the fact that he was infecting others. A kid wrote that he hated his sister who had special needs. Op's sister had suffered severe brain damage at birth due to hypoxia. He describes how it affects her in detail in his post. His mom apparently deluded herself into thinking that his sister's condition would improve, and left the family destitute in pursuit of ineffectual and unrealistic treatment. She relied on Op to be her caregiver and never wanted him to leave their home. Op was a teenager and she basically destroyed any chance of a social life because she always insisted that he bring along his quite literally brain-dead sister wherever he went. He finally confronted her about all of this when she wanted him to bring his sister along with him to a date. It reads like it was Op's first time to challenge his mom, and that his literal lifetime of pent-up resentment was unleashed all at once. Coincidentally, she hung herself 3 weeks later. Op's father had divorced his mom many years earlier, and in the ensuing years she had forbidden Op from contacting him. Op finally got to contact his father following his mom's suicide, and his dad said, "No, I have a new family now and have moved on." His sister has been moved into a home. He moved in with a friend. There have been no further updates. He's 16. There was a post about a woman who wanted to know how to protect herself in the event she were raped, and taken into the woods, or something like that. She wanted to know what evidence could be left behind, or something along those lines. Turned out when people reviewed the Op's history, it was a man. And very clearly it was someone trying to plan a crime. I'm not sure if I'm remembering it correctly, but it was super fucked up. I hope that person hasn't harmed anyone since the years have passed. Holy shit, you just reminded me about a user who posted asking for help on removing rotting flesh smells from his house, hypothetically, and one of the chemical engineers there roasted him by telling him to make a bomb, and then they went back and forth and the engineer found out that this guy was trying to hide a body. The post was reported and the user account was scrubbed, but his posts are still up somewhere. He had some freaky fucking questions to ask, like about setting up a hypothetical microwave antenna array around his rural home to jam any cell phones in the area, for educational purposes, he stated. He also posted pictures of guns, beer, and hard drugs in the bed of his pickup truck, titled something like "Tonight's the Night," and had numerous selfies with escorts accompanied with pictures of guns titled "Creepy Stuff Like Another One of My Friends." The one, besides the ones already mentioned, that stuck with me was a story a few years back that was happening on 4chan and being posted in real time to Reddit. I didn't see it on 4C but followed this on Reddit as it was happening. A guy went to his girlfriend's house, had rough sex with her, beat her brutally and then strangled her to death, wrote stuff all over her body and left her in a particularly grotesque and revealing position specifically so that her autistic son, 13 if I recall, would find her like that. Evidently he smashed her face in and killed the cat as well. He was describing what he did to her, posting pictures of her as she was dying/dead. Of all the things he said, it was "she fought so damn hard that did me in." That and being haunted by that poor kid finding his mother like that. That POS filed an appeal in 2020 trying to shorten his sentence on technicalities, but thankfully it was struck down. OMG, I randomly think of this one and get terrified for my daughter. It's much worse than I remembered apparently. I too remember the line "she fought so damn hard." A couple years back there was an askreddit thread asking about people who accidentally killed someone. What happened? Someone posted on it stating that as children, they used to play at this place in the outskirts of town with a huge river and cliffs. There was this special needs kid that him and a group of other kids pushed off a tall hill on a super rainy day. They freaked out, ditched him and went home, swearing to keep the whole thing a secret from their parents. Apparently the kid went missing, probably died where he fell and his body was scavenged by animals, or he fell into the river while injured because he noticed that the kid was missing and it was on the news. Someone replied to the post and posted an unresolved missing child case from decades ago and it matched the story. He even looked into the poster's Reddit history and noticed that he mentioned moving back to his childhood town, which was the town the missing kid was from. He also posted geographical data of where a river and cliffs would be located within walking distance of a school. The posts were all deleted apparently. There was a guy who did a true off my chest where he talks about making friends with this guy at his gym. Ended up bringing him home for dinner and the guy's wife literally had a breakdown because apparently this new friend of her husband's was actually a man who had previously raped/stalked her in the past. Wife ended up going to stay with friends/family. Post got deleted. Not sure if there was ever any update. Was on best of Redditor updates recently. The man never saw his wife again. The friend was in fact looking for the woman, and knew he was her husband. Husband was so regretful he didn't recognize friend. The kid who killed himself as a teenager after being tormented at school for smelling like feces all the time. His dad had been pimping him out since he was 4, so he was completely tore up. It is literally the saddest, most disgusting thing I have ever seen on this site and can't even bring myself to talk about it, even with close friends. Nobody should have to know that sort of evil exists, and only reason I'm sharing it here is to answer the question. I think it's an important reminder that you're almost guaranteed to be sex trafficked by someone you know and are close to than being snatched off the streets. Don't block the shoulder. Guy and his friend work over the summer, clearing trees with professional arborists. Friends cuts himself open with his chainsaw, blood everywhere. They throw him in a car and try to rush him to the hospital. More blood everywhere. They hit traffic on the freeway, so they use the shoulder. A couple of self-appointed highway vigilantes see them coming and block the shoulder. They scream and yell at them to move. They don't move. They scream and yell some more. They don't move. Friend's pulse is fading fast. This goes on for 10 minutes until they finally get around them at an exit ramp. A cop shows up and escorts them to a waiting ambulance a couple of miles down the highway. The EMTs load friend in and take off, but it's too late. He dies less than a mile from the hospital. One of the vigilante shoulder blockers shows up a few minutes later and stops to complain at the cop about the shitty drivers, then notices the thoroughly blood-soaked men at the side of the road. Cop shows her the car that looks worse than when Marvin got shot in the face in Pulp Fiction, then cites her for a bunch of stuff. The second vigilante gets stopped and ticketed by another cop. Don't block the shoulder, people. You don't know why someone is driving on it illegally. They may be assholes, sure. They probably are assholes. But it's possible that they have a really good reason for doing that.